Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I am spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. As always, I am abundantly grateful for this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And in this segment, we look to the month of November 2023. How very quickly has this year unfolded for us? And doesn't it seem that as soon as we progress into September, the last 4 months of the year appear to unfold at such lightning speed? And if you think about it, just in terms of numerology, September is the 9th month. The numbers 9, 10, 11, and 12 connect us with higher levels of consciousness, the higher self and the higher mind, higher vibrational energies. And because in the spirit realm, time as we understand it doesn't exist, these last few months are connecting with us higher levels of consciousness and those higher vibrational frequency. So it does appear as though time is unfolding much more quickly during the last few months of the year. Now, that said, we begin November with Saturn moving direct. Actually, specifically, Saturn will move direct on November 4th. It's been retrograde since June 17th of this year. Now, as I've said quite often, that whenever a planet is moving retrograde, which the planets don't actually change direction. It's how we observe their apparent motion from the perspective of being on Earth plane that offers the appearance as though a planet is moving retrograde. All the planets will move retrograde. The sun and the moon do not move retrograde, but all the planets move retrograde. Most are familiar with the Mercury retrograde phase. And always I inspire us to understand that when we are working with the planetary energies, they are not intended to disrupt and create havoc and chaos for us in our lives. It's when we are not working with the energy, when we're not going with the flow of the planetary alignments, that sometimes we miscreate and bring forth disruptions. Saturn retrograde represents an opportunity to reflect upon our long-term goals. Saturn specifically represents long-term goals. So during a Saturn retrograde phase, we reflect on those long-term goals. It's not necessarily the opportunity to move forward with our long-term goals. It's a time to reflect, review, reassess whatever those desires may be for us. And then once Saturn moved direct, as well as other favorable alignments come together for us, would suggest a more advantageous time when to move forward with those goals. It's kind of interesting. There's a unique alignment to Saturn at the time that it does move direct, where I would inspire us all to recognize how when we honor our goals, but also too, this connects us with a higher purpose, a greater purpose, a destiny, which also is representative of Saturn as I understand it. So you could also observe this past Saturn retrograde as an opportunity to really recognize a greater purpose. All of that, our greatest ambitions, our greatest goals, our higher purpose, our higher destiny, really is playing a part of what we may contribute to the wellness and the inspiration and our service to the all of humanity. So perhaps just, even though Saturn's moving direct, so perhaps even allow yourself to just recognize and reflect on how your greatest ambitions really are part of your destiny, and all of that is designed, and perhaps you chose all of that before embodiment as part of a contribution to our overall service to humanity. So many in these last few years have been offered the opportunity to really embrace whatever that might be. Perhaps now is the time to honor that and to move forward and to employ the courage really to continue on that path in whatever way you feel is best for you, as well as whatever you feel may be a calling, if you will. This is certainly a time to honor that and to welcome that. We have come out of our eclipse season, which we had a solar eclipse on October 14th, a lunar eclipse on October 28th. Eclipses shift energy, they redirect energy, and as always, it's dependent upon, on a personal level, where they fit into our charts, where they are placed in our personal charts, and the alignments and the aspects that are formed to other points in the chart for us to really understand on a personal level how all of that will play out for us and how we can work with these energies, and how the universe is offering us a greater, higher understanding as to what is occurring in our lives on a personal level, as well as what is unfolding in the outside world. Now, our next new moon will take place on November 13th, and as always, the last stage of the lunar cycle, which is the balsamic moon, which is the opportunity to prepare for the start of the next lunar cycle. The balsamic moon phase begins on November 9th, and the exact time of that is 6:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have switched back to Standard Time on the morning of November 5th. So we are now in Standard Time, the balsamic moon phase, again, November 9th at 6:43 a.m. That is the opportunity to begin preparing for the next lunar cycle. It's a time to clear, cleanse, purge, and release any discord or anything which may not allow us to completely take advantage of the new moon, as well as our intentions, or rather the success to bring forth the intentions that we desire to cast in motion at the time of the new moon. Now, our new moon is on, as I said, November 13th. The exact moment of the new moon, which begins the next lunar cycle, is 4:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, the sun is transiting in the sign of Scorpio, so our new moon on the 13th is in the sign of Scorpio. And within a couple of the degrees proximity, less than 2 degrees, we have Mars in Scorpio. But what is extraordinary at this new moon is that there is an opposition. Now, an opposition are when two elements are diametrically opposed one another, as on a full moon when the sun and the moon are directly opposite one another. Directly opposite within a degree of the new moon is Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Now, Uranus represents, among many things, awakenings. And because it is opposing that Scorpio new moon, it is awakening us to many of the Scorpio characteristics and Scorpio elements. And one of the many components of Scorpio is the ability to manifest and to bring to form. For many years, every one of us has been inspired to recognize how we are the master of our destiny, how we are creative beings, and how we already have the power within us to bring to form some of our greatest desires. And again, when we understand how to work with all of this energy, we have the ability to sometimes even very quickly bring to form our desires. We always don't understand how, when there is a misalignment between thought, word, and deed, it doesn't necessarily bode well for the manifestation process. So at this new moon, allow yourselves to really embrace that quality of being, one, the master of your destiny, as well as the ability to manifest and to bring to form some of your greatest desires. Scorpio does also represent the ability and the opportunity to transform. And sometimes that transformational experience does require courage, as well as the component of surrendering, to surrendering to something greater. So if perhaps you are not comfortable with that surrendering element, it's a time to release it during the dark moon, balsamic moon phase of the lunar cycle, to help you prepare to really transform to something greater that perhaps is already within yourself, that is already coming to form. Uranus will always bring about great changes, and sometimes chaos will precede great change. And as always, that chaos isn't designed to disrupt us, it's just stirring up some energy. If you are perhaps fearful of change, now is an opportunity to release that and welcome the change, which will allow you to transform. Every sign is ruled by a planet, and Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto also represents the ability to bring to form ambitious desires, great desires. And to do that, we must, or rather to be that, we must allow ourselves the opportunity to transform and to release what doesn't serve a greater purpose for us. A Pluto cycle of experience, whenever it has a specific direct impact on our chart, it will peel away the layers which no longer serve a purpose for us. And sometimes we're not always comfortable with that experience. However, that change certainly does fortify creativity, and also it allows you to really be who perhaps you have chosen to become prior to this embodiment. So during this time, as the sun is continuing and finishing up its transit in Scorpio, with our next new moon in November being in the sign of Scorpio, allow yourself perhaps to be shown where, on a personal level, is there a certain facet in your life which needs to be transformed, or perhaps, and as well as with you personally, allow yourself the courage to transform. And by being so, you will recognize and understand your ability to manifest your desires and to bring to form what it is that you would choose to experience while in this human form, also having the understanding that those manifestations can certainly play a part for the highest good of others. I always suggest to, when we cast in motion our intentions, to infuse that intention of the highest good for yourself as well as others. And that does not suggest that we cannot enjoy what we desire. Perhaps we will be shown how to fine-tune those intentions and bring about desires that are even greater than we can imagine. That Scorpio element is also the connection with the spirit realm. And during this time of year, as the sun specifically transits Scorpio, we honor those who have transitioned into the spirit realm, but also we honor our connections with our loved ones who have transitioned into the spirit realm. This Scorpio new moon could also suggest that we have the opportunity to transform our lives in such dramatic ways, similar to the intensity of when we leave the physical form, however, remaining in the physical form, connected to earth plane, but allowing ourselves to have such a dramatic transformation where, when we have left the physical world, when we drop the body, we leave behind the density and the matter of this level of consciousness. However, we can enjoy that same experience while remaining in physical form. We do have the ability to transcend, ascend past the density in the matter while remaining in human form, and that is an extraordinary experience. That's part of the bigger picture of what is occurring in our world right now. Humanity, the earth, we are ascending to higher levels of consciousness, higher vibrational frequencies, while remaining in human form. And that experience is extraordinary, and it presents such a lightness to these experiences. You know, we quite often we don't always understand how we miscreate experiences that sometimes present greater challenges. Quite often when we feel we need to be in control of all the experiences. However, when we recognize that we are the master of our destiny, we allow ourselves to be very much co-creative with the universe and prime creator, which allows us to also recognize our ability to manifest. This is all part of the Scorpio energy and the Scorpio new moon that we are about to embark upon. One final point regarding the new moon and that Uranus placement. Uranus is transiting the sign of Taurus. Taurus represents, among many things, our financial wellness. Scorpio is the return on our investments. And quite honestly, or quite often, we don't allow ourselves to receive whatever it is that we have cast in motion. So perhaps at this new moon, set the intention in motion that you allow yourselves to welcome the return on your investments, whether it be financially or otherwise, and just allow yourself to receive the many blessings, especially as we are moving into the holiday season. You know, especially with Thanksgiving, it's such an auspicious opportunity to really be in that place of gratitude, but not just for one day of year. That element of gratitude is so profound, and it's such an auspicious opportunity for all of us to every day to just be conscious, to be thankful for all the blessings that are already bestowed upon us. Remember, when we direct our attention towards those blessings, we magnify the blessings that are already surrounding us, and we create more. So as we move into this holiday Thanksgiving season, allow yourselves to really be conscious, if you're not already being so, to every day just be in that place of gratitude. Begin each day honoring at least 12 blessings that are already surrounding you, and it could be as simple as being grateful for your morning coffee. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you are conscious and allowing yourself to be very much in that place of gratitude. Now, on November 22nd, the sun transits into the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius represents the higher mind, the higher consciousness, the higher self, philosophy, our spirituality. What I suggest for us to always honor is that part of us that is referred to as the higher self. And you may have heard me make reference to this quite often in the past, and sometimes I address this during private consultations. Whenever I observe an individual arriving at a place of opportunity where their connection to the higher mind and their higher self is very much being strengthened and energized, as does when the sun transits the sign of Sagittarius for the all of humanity. Whatever sign the sun is transiting throughout the year, we highlight the elements of that sign for us to welcome and to embrace and to experience those qualities. Every one of us has what is referred to as a higher self. That is that part of us that exists in the spirit realm, which I refer to as our pristine state of consciousness that is removed from the density and the matter of the physical world. And we have an etheric umbilical cord connection to that higher self that allows us to receive higher knowing, higher insights, greater understanding. It allows us to transform our beliefs as we progress through our lives to a higher place of knowing about ourselves, our purpose, as well as the interactions we have with others and this human experience. So as the sun transits the sign of Sagittarius, allow yourself to perhaps have a greater understanding of that connection with your higher mind and your higher self. Fortify that connection, that umbilical cord thread to the higher mind and the higher self. Clear away those lines of communication so that you are at a place where you are receiving higher insights that will guide you on your path. You know, as I mentioned earlier regarding understanding our connections with the spirit realm, we all have these connections with spirit. But it doesn't necessarily suggest that we are to conduct psychic consultations, if you will, or whatever that might be. It's so that we can recognize spirit is available to everyone so that it may guide us. Remember, spirit can see the bigger picture, and it will always share with us its knowing and its higher insights when we properly facilitate the process by one, remaining clear and grounded with the energy of the earth, clearing our etheric being, our aura field, if you will, from any discord which sometimes interferes with the clarity that we are receiving from spirit, but also being in a place of trust, really being in a place of absolute trust and knowing that among many things, we're going to be okay no matter what. That said, we will come now to our full moon on November 27th. The exact moment of the full moon is November 27th at 4:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, at the full moon, the sun is in the early stages of Sagittarius, so directly opposite of that is Gemini. So the moon is in Gemini at the full moon, the sun is in Sagittarius. Gemini represents, among many things, communications, our thoughts, and as I mentioned earlier, Sagittarius being the higher octave, if you will, of Gemini, its polar opposite is the higher mind, the higher self's beliefs and philosophies. Perhaps at this new moon, allow yourself to recognize the power of the spoken word. Remember, with words, we have the ability to cast spells, as to why vocabulary is referred to as spelling. Really understand the power of the spoken word, which begins with the thoughts. Gemini represents the thought dimension of more so the lower realms of consciousness. Sagittarius is the thoughts and the beliefs of the higher levels of consciousness. At this full moon, it's an opportunity to recognize if there's an incongruency between, among many things, your thoughts, words, and actions, thought, words, and deeds. When there are imbalances in those three elements, that is when the creative process is disrupted, and we're not necessarily experiencing what it is that we truly would desire to experience and to bring to form. So at this new moon, and specifically I suggest this is because the full moon, the full moon is in the early degrees of Gemini. That quality of the thoughts and the spoken word is very much being energized at this time. Remember, a full moon brings to form, it shines the light on certain qualities and certain elements. So this full moon is certainly directing the spotlight on the ability and the power of the spoken word. We also have a significant Pluto alignment to the full moon. So it's even more an opportunity that is reinforcing that knowing from a place of love and humility. Again, how we are the masters of our destiny and the ability to manifest and to bring the form. It seems like there's a common thread in this video regarding the opportunity and the ability and our potential to manifest, to be that manifester and the master of our destiny. Remember, it all begins with intention, thoughts, word, and then our actions. Once more, I am grateful for this opportunity to share with you some of the insights of the many planetary alignments that take place during a given month. You know, there's so much sometimes that occurs in a given time, and on a platform as such, I just choose to highlight the more significant elements that are taking place. Otherwise, it would be too overwhelming for myself as well as the viewer to really process all of the information. You know, as I mentioned earlier, we are progressing into the holiday season. We will be enjoying Thanksgiving later this month, being a time to honor and to always recognize the importance of gratitude. And then we move into the Christmas, Yule, solstice, Hanukkah season in December, which it's really all about the return to light. You know, perhaps we could allow ourselves to not only enjoy that return to light, not only during this time and these wonderful connections we have with each other, but to really bring forth and really carry with us those experiences of connecting with one another, being in a place of love and light throughout this entire year. You know, and also honor, as I've said throughout this video quite often, being the master of your destiny and recognizing how every one of us is so instrumental in creating whatever is going to come next. And that's a big part of why we look at all of this, to recognize the tools that are available to us from Spirit and the universe, so to help us navigate this human encounter, but also to bring to form our greatest desires, which, when those desires are observed from a place of love and humility, they very much will contribute to the overall wellness of humanity, and we are creating a new earth. Once again, I thank you for this opportunity. I will be returning to the mystical moon, both in Fort Myers and in Bonita Springs. I begin my next residency on November 13th, and I will be meeting with clients through November 29th. My schedule is already filling up very, very quickly, so if you would like to schedule time with me, you can contact the centers of your choice in either Fort Myers or Bonita Springs to schedule your time with me. And I am always abundantly grateful that I have these opportunities to twice a year come down and meet with everyone in Southwest Florida. I wish everyone a most blessed and bountiful and joyous Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing everyone again very soon. Many blessings. Namaste.